Hello, everybody. This is Anna Johnson with the Center for Rural Affairs. I'm so glad to see so many people joining our webinar today. So you know where you are. We're in the Crop Insurance for Beginners webinar, and we're grateful to USDA for their support of this webinar. So here we are in the noon hour. Thank you so much for joining, and we're going to be talking today about the basics of crop insurance. And so this is a webinar for folks who are interested in purchasing crop insurance, but are interested in learning more about how it works. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, welcome. My name is Anna Johnson, and I'm a policy manager at the Center for Rural Affairs. And also on the line is my colleague, Cora Fox, policy associate. Cora, is your audio working?
My audio is working. Just a note for everybody, if you have any questions or need any technical assistance, please feel free to send those messages to me.
Wonderful. Okay, so a couple housekeeping things before we dive on in. First, as Cora said, please feel free to ask questions during the webinar. There's a questions function in the GoToWebinar where you can enter in questions, and there's also a raise your hand function, and so we can ask questions during, and then we'll also have a Q&A at the end. And I'm hoping we have 90 minutes blocked out, but we don't have to take all 90 minutes if we don't want to. But we're happy to go as long as questions do. So continuing on. So if you're not familiar with the Center for Rural Affairs, just a little bit about us. We're a nonprofit organization. Our headquarters is in Lyons, Nebraska. And then I'm in our Iowa office in Veda, Iowa. And we stand up for family farmers and ranchers, new business owners, rural communities. We've been doing this work for 45 years. And our mission is to establish strong rural communities, social and economic justice, environmental stewardship, and genuine opportunity for all while engaging people in decisions that affect the quality of their lives and the future of their communities. So that's a quick overview of who we are. And then if you register for this webinar, you likely noticed that we have a couple of webinars coming up. One is on Thursday on whole farm revenue protection, which is a flexible crop insurance option that'll also be over the noon hour and Central Time. And then Friday, we're going to have a webinar on revenue insurance options for livestock. So you can register for those at on our events page, and we'd love to see you there. And a quick plug: the whole farm revenue protection webinar is on crop insurance for crops where you maybe aren't able to get insurance on them using other plans like organics, small grains, livestock, fruits, vegetables. So if that's something that might interest you, please please join us or pass the word along. And today we're going to be focusing on crop insurance, but there are also livestock options. So if you want to learn more about the revenue insurance options for livestock, Cora will be talking about those on Friday. So okay, let's see. So let's dive on in. Thank you again, everybody, for being here. So our goals for today are to go over a little bit about, what is crop insurance and why do we have it and what does it do? And then some things to think about as you're deciding if crop insurance is right for your operation, and then how to choose a crop insurance product. So these are pretty big goals, bigger than you can really cover in an hour. So this will be a start to the conversation. But after this webinar, if you think of questions that you wish that you had asked, please get in touch with us. Our contact information, we will make that available. And so before we go in, diving in on those questions, I'd love to get a sense of who we have on the phone. So I have a quick poll, and would love for you to be able to participate in that. And I think I've set it up so you can. There we go. Yes. Okay, good. If you can just take a second or two to click on which one of these options describes you best. How long, where are you in farming and ranching? Oh, thanks everybody who's participated so far. Wait a couple more seconds. Wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for completing that poll. So just a quick overview, just so you all have a sense of who's on the phone. Almost half of folks have been farming or ranching for less than 10 years. A little bit under about 20% have been farming or ranching for more than 10 years. So got some experienced folks in the room, and then around 40% aren't currently farming or ranching. So a good mix. Thank you, everybody. And we do have one other poll too, if you'll indulge me. There we go. We want to get a sense of your experience with crop insurance, so we can know kind of if what information might be helpful to follow up with also. Wonderful. Seeing all these responses come in. Oh, it's so great. Thank you, everybody. Okay, wonderful. So about half of folks on the phone haven't purchased crop insurance before. So I hope the and then some folks have purchased crop insurance previously, and then some folks are exploring. So thank you, everybody. So I hope that hope that what we have to share today is going to be useful to you. So let's get going. So there we go. So we're going to dive into those questions of what is crop insurance and what does it do by starting with an overview of who manages crop insurance. Crop insurance is managed by a public-private partnership between the government, United States Department of Agriculture Risk Management Agency, and they set crop insurance policy with private businesses, and these are called approved insurance providers, or AIPs. And then those AIPs in turn work with individual crop insurance agents to sell you crop insurance policies. When you're buying a crop insurance policy, the parameters of what crop insurance policies contain come from that partnership between USDA and the AIPs. So that's kind of the back end, some of the back end work. Another thing to know about crop insurance is that it is subsidized by the federal government. So this happens in two ways. The first is in your crop insurance premium, which is the amount, obviously, you pay for your policy. You'll receive a subsidy so that you end up paying a lower premium. And then there's also the other way that crop insurance is subsidized is through arrangements with the AIPs. They receive subsidies as well. There are other crop insurance policies out there that are managed completely by private companies, such as many forms of hail insurance. But today we're going to be focusing on the insurance options that are managed through that are backed by the government in this way. So moving on. So getting into the why of crop insurance. Why do we have it? Obviously, you all know this. Farming is really risky. Markets can fluctuate. We can have weather events like dry spells or heavy rains, and these and other types of events can impact both harvest and prices. And so crop insurance is there to help manage certain aspects of risk. But another reason that crop insurance might be helpful to you and your operation is that many banks require proof of insurance in order to qualify for a loan. So crop insurance can also, in addition to helping you manage risk, can also help with accessing credit. So before purchasing crop insurance, it's helpful to get some idea of what kinds of losses it will and will not cover. So obviously this will depend on the plan, but what's usually covered are natural causes such as drought, excessive moisture, hail, wind, frost, insects, disease. Changes in prices can also be covered, but some types of losses that are not going to be covered by crop insurance can include damage from pesticide drift, fire, negligence, a failure to follow what's called good farming practices, and others. And these good farming practices, this is a system that USDA-RMA has set up to determine if a loss was due to poor crop management. So some crop insurance participation basics. The Risk Management Agency, RMA, they have on their website they outline the producer obligations and expectations, things you want to know going into a crop insurance agreement. So things that producers are expected to do, can be expected in when purchasing a crop insurance policy is to report acreage and other required protection accurately, meet policy deadlines, pay premiums when due, report losses immediately. Obviously, a crop insurance agent will share specifics of a plan with you. On the expectation side, then you can expect to receive accurate answers to questions on types of coverage, prompt processing of policy, and timely payments for covered loss. And you can look up more at their on their website under their producer obligations and expectations. So now we're going to shift away from some of those basics of crop insurance to how you can go about learning what insurance options might be available for you, and then make an informed decision for your operation. So we're going to go over a couple of really cool online tools that RMA has available to the public. And so the first one of these tools that is this Actuarial information browser, where you can explore what insurance plans are available in your county. We're not going to get into the reports that it generates, but those are pretty cool also, and have information on insurance plans and deadlines. And we'll also be posting all of these links when we post the recording of this webinar. I think if I didn't say it earlier, we are recording this webinar. Sorry for not mentioning that. So crop insurance varies county by county. Some crops may be covered in one county and not another. So I have a couple of screenshots here to demonstrate. So here we have, if you look up this tool, you can look up corn in 2019, looking at yield protection, and I mentioned I'm in Nevada, Iowa, which is in Story County, and I can look up the yield insurance options. Say if I were exploring insurance options for apples in my county, I look up apples in 2019, the available insurance plan. You see that in Iowa, there are only 3 counties where apple policies are offered. So this is kind of a really quick and dirty way to find out if there's a policy option available for the crop that you'd like to insure. Also, then I mentioned the whole farm revenue protection, which is going to be the focus of our webinar on Thursday, and that is designed to cover crops and livestock for which there isn't a specific policy. So even if you don't find, say an apple policy in Story County, I could then consider a whole farm revenue protection policy, which is available in every county. Another option, if I find that I want to insure something but there isn't a policy in my county, is you can get in touch with RMA. Again, that's the U.S. Department of Agriculture Risk Management Agency, and request that they add insurance for that crop. So they have a link available for that. So at this point, if you've decided you'd like to try buying crop insurance, so what's next? Well, the first thing to emphasize is that it's important to get in touch with an insurance agent pretty much as soon as possible to kind of get that conversation started. March 15th is a common filing deadline for insurance policies. And when you think about the process of meeting with an agent, getting them familiar with your operation, working through the details of the coverage that you're interested in, all of that is not a short process. And obviously you'll be much happier with the results if you kind of work through that and get questions answered before the deadline. And here we are at the beginning of January, so there's still some time, but it's good to get the ball rolling now. So if you may be familiar with RMA's Agent Locator Tool, they keep a database of crop insurance agents across the country, and you can use that tool to look up who the crop insurance agents are in your area. That's helpful. And then also, again, back to the Actuarial information browser. Another thing that you can use that tool for is to look up the filing deadlines if you were going to do some investigation, or you can call an agent and find out what the deadlines are. But again, March 15th is a common deadline in Iowa and Nebraska. So another important question that in deciding whether you want to purchase a crop insurance policy is figuring out how much it's going to cost. So you can get an estimate of how much your crop insurance premium would be using RMA's cost estimator tool, and we'll go through an example of that in a minute. Obviously, the final cost you determine through working with your agent, but this online tool is a really helpful. Offers a really helpful opportunity to kind of do some exploring on your own beforehand. Another thing to keep in mind is that will impact the cost of crop insurance is the level of coverage that you like. Covering losses ranges you can cover 50% loss up to an 85% loss. That's the general range. And obviously, if you're covering a higher loss, if you wanted to cover, if you want to purchase a plan that's going to cover an 85% loss, that's going to be a more expensive plan, and so your insurance premium would be higher. So that's something to explore also. And catastrophic is the term for purchasing that protection for a catastrophic loss, and so that's going to have an additional cost as well. So here's a quick example, and again, we'll send around the links to these different tools after the webinar. So this is the RMA's cost estimator tool. So I've entered in a couple different things here for you to just kind of get a sense, a quick example. So if we're looking at policies for corn in 2019, in Iowa, in Montgomery County, I selected high amylase corn. There were some other options there. You kind of get the picture. I picked a couple different basic parameters for to look up what insurance options would be available. Then you end up with a report. And this is another screenshot. I know it's really tiny, but just to give you a sense of the information that they ask of you around. I went with, for this example, I assumed 100 acres of non-irrigated corn, assuming 170 bushels per acre. I went with last year's prices. I went with last year's price volatility factor, et cetera. But what I find most interesting is once you've picked out all of those parameters and explored that tool, you can then look up. Then it will give you an estimate for the cost to you as the cost estimator tool. So we have here the liability amount, but then you can also look at the total premium amount for you, and then as I mentioned earlier, the premiums are subsidized, and so then you can look up how much you would be responsible for and how much the subsidy amount would be. And then also loss trigger point. So again, these are all estimates, but if you've never bought crop insurance before and are considering it, this is a really helpful tool to play around with before you go in to speak with an agent. And then last, I have one more tool if you're interested. We won't go into this in the same depth, but this will help you get a bigger picture view of which insurance options are sold in your area. So how many of a certain type of policy were purchased in your state in a given year. So this tool is called the Summary of Business Report Generator, which is useful for that. And I put a picture of bees on here because it was through using this generator a couple years ago that I learned that there is insurance available for bees as well. So that's a fun tool also. So okay, so you've looked through some of the cost estimator tool and done some exploring on the RMA website. You have some idea that you'd like to purchase crop insurance, and you've looked up an agent in your area. So what are some things that you want to make sure to chat with your agent about? So the first thing is obviously you want to talk about the type of plan you're considering, and I'm going to talk about a few different types of plans in a minute. And you also want to talk about your level of coverage, and again the level of loss that you want to insure. Again, that's that 50% to 85% loss. But other things you want to be sure to kind of bring up with your agent is talking about obviously how big the premium will be and how much you're responsible for, those payment deadlines, which I mentioned, what reporting is required before and during and after the coverage period, and if you do experience a loss, how to document it and how to file a claim. And the time period for that might be pretty short, maybe around 72 hours. So you want to know that at the beginning, and then also speak with them about the timing for processing claims. And then a couple other things to think about, which one of them is if it's possible that your agent might not be as familiar with your farm business model. For example, if you raise crops or livestock that are less common in your area, you might want to bring educational materials about your operation and your markets to your meeting with your agent to kind of get them familiar with what you're doing. You might consider also asking about insurance, like about all the different insurance options available for your operation, and if you are one of those folks who is raising a crop or livestock that are less common for your area, be sure to ask about whole farm revenue protection, because that is again available in every county, and it will cover revenue for crops and livestock when other options are available. And then a third point to just flag is about cover crops. Crop insurance allows for planted cover crops and risk management agency. There's been a lot of work done in the last several years to make sure that risk management agency makes accommodations for planted cover crops. So they have some resources on their website if you want to learn more about that. But that's something also to talk with your agent about. So then a couple of particular things for beginning farmers. I know we've got a lot of folks who've been farming for under 10 years on the call. So there are a couple of provisions around crop insurance, particular for beginners, to be aware of. So if you've been farming for up to 5 years, you count as a beginner under crop insurance. It's not the normal the 10-year mark that USDA sets up, but it's a 5-year mark. A 10% premium bonus is available to you, so that's which is also to help beginners get established. Catastrophic coverage fees are waived. Again, those are the additional fees for getting that highest level of coverage. That's kind of the most expensive. And last, you can use your production histories from a farm you were involved with, even if you're not currently farming there. So that's to help with some of that production history information. And then a couple of notes: there might be organic folks on the call who are currently growing organic crops or are considering it. There are organic crop insurance options have increased in recent years. There are crop-specific policies available in certain counties. You might be interested. The top 10 organic commodities in 2016 that were insured were corn, apples, wheat, tobacco, soybeans, rice, tomatoes, almonds, grapes, and blueberries. And again, I mentioned whole farm revenue protection can be used to cover organic crops. And a crop is eligible. You can find out whether there's an organic option for a crop in your county by looking up to see if there's an organic price election available for it, and that is using the Actuarial information browser, which I've linked to a couple times. Some of the wealth of information that provides, the organic price election is one of those things. And so now I want to shift over to talking about a few different types of insurance products. As you're scrolling through these tools online, as you're scrolling through all these various resources that I've been sharing, you'll come across the different types of plans. And so I'd like to outline briefly what they are here, but obviously there's more information on the RMA website, and you'll want to work out the details for your operation with an agent. One of the kind of general types of insurance products is one that are the yield-based policies. So that's insuring the yield. So one of those is actual production history, which covers losses in yields from natural causes such as drought, excessive moisture, hail, wind, frost, insects, disease. Another type of yield policy is yield protection, which is based on projected price. And then contrast those yield-based policies with our revenue-based policies, which ensures the revenue that you're expecting. So revenue protection is one of these, which covers, as you might expect, revenue loss. It insures producers against yield losses due to natural causes, the ones I mentioned earlier, and also against revenue losses caused by a change in the harvest price from a projected price. And then I've mentioned whole farm several times, so I don't need to plug our webinar too much more, but you get the idea. Another type of insurance product that's available is livestock policies, which again you'll hear about on Friday also. Annual forage, pasture rangeland forage, and livestock gross margin and livestock risk protection. And then there are some products that are based on specific parameters for your area, and these tend to be for only specific types of crops. So there's area risk protection insurance and a group risk plan, which is coverage based on the performance in your particular county. There's high risk alternate coverage endorsement, which is available for corn, soybeans, wheat, grain sorghum in certain counties, and that allows for coverage of high risk and non-high risk land. And then last, there's margin protection for corn, rice, soybeans, wheat, which protects your operating margin, which is your expected area revenue minus expected area operating costs. So these are all, I'm obviously doing like a really, really quick overview of what these different things are, but for more information, get in touch with us, the RMA website, and talk to your agent. So, and please, and if you have any questions, if you think of questions after the webinar, again, please feel free to get in touch with us. So then the last thing here is there are a couple important deadlines to know. This is going back to the producer obligations and expectations. So the sales, so these are both important deadlines to know and important like names for the deadlines. So sales closing date is the last day to apply for coverage. Final planting date is the last day to plant unless you were insured for a late planting. Acreage reporting date is the last day to report the acreage planted. Date to file notice of crop damage. This is again something you want to make sure to talk about with your agent, but you want to make sure you get that because obviously there's several different dates you could file notice of crop damage. After damage, the date you decide to discontinue caring for a crop, prior to the beginning of harvest, immediately, or the end of the insurance period, whichever is earlier. So obviously no one wants a loss, but no one wants both a loss and a missed deadline on filing notice of damage. So that's a key piece to keep in mind. A couple more important deadlines. The end of your insurance period is the latest date of insurance coverage. Payment due date, the day your premiums due without being charged interest. Cancellation date, last day to request cancellation of a policy. Production reporting date, the last day to report production for a couple of those different plans that I mentioned earlier. Debt termination date is the date that the approved insurance provider will terminate a policy for non-payment. So you can look up, and you can look up, if you want to look up these again, they're under RMA's website under producer obligations and expectations. So the slides, there we go. So going back to our goals for today, what is crop insurance? Why do we have it? What does it do? How do you decide if crop insurance is right for your operation? How do you choose a crop insurance product? I hope you feel more informed on all of these topics. And I'm looking forward to hearing any questions that you have. I have a couple of housekeeping things, and then we can open up broadly for questions. One housekeeping things is, again, if you're considering crop insurance, get in touch with an agent soon to get that conversation rolling. And using RMA's Agent Locator Tool can help you find an agent. Again, we're here to answer your questions. This is our contact information, which we'll also send out to participants. And a quick request also that after the webinar, you should get an email that has a survey to let us know how we did. So we would love it if you can complete that. It should be pretty short. So I'd like to open it up for questions. And if you, we also can unmute your phones if you would like. So unmuted. So yeah, any questions? The floor is open. I think if you want us to unmute you, I think if you raise your hand, that might work best. There's a little, and by raise hand, I mean muted. Unmuted. Okay, I'm still getting used to this webinar platform. Is anybody here on the call interested in insuring a product that you're that is kind of less common in your county that you wanted to ask about? Hello.
Hi, I'm kind of wondering how the collection process goes. Let's say you want to collect the revenue insurance.
You mean like if you have a loss and you file your claim and then how that process works?
Yeah, if you could walk us through that. Let's say we got a horrible hail event.
Yes. So I have a high level understanding of it, but I'm happy to follow up more. My understanding is, you get a hail event, and and assuming that this is a policy that covers hail, then you get in touch with your crop insurance agent pretty quickly, and to let them know there's been an event, and let them know what kind of loss you're seeing, and file your claim with them. I think you have to wait until the end of the crop season to get that claim processed. But I think it depends on your policy. And so then, and and then the payment gets processed, and you get they decide that it's been a justifiable loss, and pay you your indemnity. So it's a pretty, I'm sorry, that's pretty high level, but I'm happy to kind of follow up more also. Oh, I see one hand. I see a hand from Kenny. Do you have a question that you want to put in the question box? Maybe we can. I'm trying to unmute, and I don't think I can. I think you have to unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm wondering how about revenue insurance? Let's say end of the year we hit our revenue and it's not where we want it to be or what we would qualify for. How does that work?
I'm not as familiar with the revenue insurance that I'm most familiar with is whole farm, and that one I know you have to, since it's based on your tax returns, you aren't able to file until the following year, the next tax year. So I think that but I'll have to follow up with you about some of those details of how other revenue insurance policies work. What crops are you growing?
Mostly just concerned about corn and soybeans.
Okay. I can follow up with you afterwards to dig into more of those details. But thank you for asking. Anybody else? Okay. Well, again, please feel free to reach out to Cora and myself with any other additional follow-up questions, and we'll be sending around a follow-up email with some of these links that we've that I shared with you, and and we'd love it if you could take the survey. But without any other questions, then I think we can call it good. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining today. I really appreciate you taking the time. I hope this has been helpful, and thank you for joining. Have a good day.